Bismillah Rahim. Divine Attributes Part 5, Rehman and Raheem. So we will cover two divine attributes of Rehman and Raheem. We know quite a bit already, but something new has been added, and also some old slides will be shared. These are the references, and some of the excerpts have been taken from the Meanings of the Quran, Volume 1. For contact, this is our number. The first slide, we had seen this slide previously as well, divine attributes, listing the main ones. And this is taken from Tabweebul Quran. The divine attribute of Rabb we covered in our previous presentation, and today we are going to cover Ar-Rehman, Ar-Raheem. Manifestation of divine attributes. The self in its absolute complete form is the self of Allah. And those attributes of His which are defined in the Quran are, you could say, the rays reflecting from it, or are its various facets. Leaving aside those attributes which are solely specific to the divine self, for example, Abdiyat, infinite, the remainder of the attributes are also kept within man as latent potentials in a finite form. And we have gone over this aspect previously as well, that we are born with certain latent potentials. And some of these latent potentials we manifest and display within the man-made system, while those which are related to the permanent values and divine attributes of Allah and in relation to the system of Deen, those have to be brought up in the light of the Quran. As the human self keeps on developing, these attributes keep on being reflected within the limits of being human. So all these divine attributes which are given in the Quran, when we look at these in relation to Allah, then these are the manifestations of infinite being of Allah. And when we look at them from human point of view, then Quran is asking us to reflect these, that is, produce these attributes within our own self through our own choice, so that we are able to carry out all those duties which Allah has taken on Himself and are noted in the Quran, and we are able to progress towards the system of Deen. In other words, the manifestation of the divine attributes takes place in the character and conduct within the limits of being human. That is, before these divine attributes, we are a different human being. That is non-Quranic self we will have, should I say. And once we start following the Quran and start displaying these divine attributes within our conduct, within our behavior, within ourself, then we start becoming better individual and our self starts developing. Of that individual whose self is becoming developed. Therefore, it is essential that in order to know whether our self is developing or not, and if it is happening, then to what extent, we will need to see whether the divine attributes can be glimpsed or not in our character and conduct. So these divine attributes serve as an external standard. And we will see today, for example, Rehman and Raheem, that how we display them, manifest them in our conduct. And we have seen under Rabb that what all we can display. In fact, we covered only few points in our previous presentation. But as we will go through the Quran, more will come before us. Looking at it from this aspect, the divine attributes will serve as external criteria. So Quran does not leave it to our own whim, to our own opinion that I am very good, because that becomes very narcissistic, that we think that we are great, but against what standard? Quran says that if you have become better, then you should check with the Quran and its criteria, its scales, that where do you stand in terms of your self-development. Or an objective standard by which to measure the development of ourself. By this, man cannot suffer from any false perception or self-deception. And that is very important, because if we deceive ourselves, then that is a serious matter, because this life is finite and we lose a lot of time in that self-deception. This is the foremost requirement of Iman in Allah and its fundamental purpose. Laying the foundation for Rububiyat. And over here, I've quoted two verses from Surah Al-Fatiha. We have gone through these previously as well. And if we want to look at more details, then we can look at our presentations under Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rehman Raheem. When man reflects on the organization and functioning of this system of the universe, then this reality becomes unveiled before him. How that means of sustenance and nourishment keeps becoming available to everything in it without expecting any return and compensation. Due to which it reaches its state of completion stage by stage from its point of initiation. Over here, we should keep in mind that Allah, before the arrival of man and Adam in the language of the Quran, all means of sustenance and their potentials are kept on the planet Earth. And as man is developing its abilities, as it is developing its potentials, we can see that how man is creative in multiplying all these sources of sustenance which are kept within the planet. After witnessing this astounding system of Rububiyyat, words of appreciation and admiration appear spontaneously on the tongue of every man of vision, and he spontaneously says that, "O our Rabb, you have not created anything in this universe without a purpose, nor for destructive purposes." Now, this is a very powerful statement which is quoted in Surah Al-Imran by the Quran, that we have to come to this conclusion, even under man-made system, where we see so much injustice, cruelty, tyranny, wars, chaos, you name it. Still, we have to look at it, that how the system is functioning and why are we created, why this universe is created, in which man is the center, at least this part of the universe that is called solar system, with choice and intent. Because if we come to grips with that, then we appreciate what is given in the Quran. These are those very men of knowledge and conviction who are in truth the ones who do Hamd of Allah. And Hamd over here, we had gone through it under Surah Al-Fatiha, does not mean to praise Allah. Hamd over here means to appreciate Allah's creation from our point of view as human beings, and then come to the Quran and then do all those things which the Quran has put forward for our self-development. It is essential for the completion of this program of Allah that those tyrannical forces which are impediments on the path of the nourishment of others are removed from the path. This is the first step of Hamdiyat, and this is where Ar-Rehman and Raheem will come into it, and we will see how this is to be done. Next slide is responsibility of the Islamic system. From the Rububiyyat of universal mankind, this fact also becomes clear that the true Allah, whose concept has been presented by the Quran, and we have covered it previously, is not the Rabb of some specific tribe, special race, particular nation, or even of some particular followers of a religion. He is the Rabb of universal humanity. And that is how Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen has to think as well, that their system of Rububiyyat for the whole of mankind, irrespective of human color, race, tribalism, nationalities, or anything else, or gender. So that's something which we should keep in mind. And from this reality will also become clear what the practical outcome will be of that system, which will become shaped by the hands of the Ummah, which has Iman in Allah. That is Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen or Ummat-e-Musallama. According to which Allah's attribute of Rabbil Alameen will become manifest in a tangible and self-evident form. This system will take the responsibility for providing the means of sustenance to the whole of mankind on itself. There is no moving creature on earth, but its sustenance depends on Allah. Because this Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen is working on behalf of Allah, as a result, all those responsibilities for sustenance on this planet Earth will be organized by Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen. The triers of rizq have been provided by Allah, but their production and distribution are carried out through human hands. And this is important for us to understand and also to make others understand. Because in a non-Quranic thinking and non-Quranic world, a lot of people think that Allah has kept the distribution of rizq as well in His own hand, like the outer universe. But Quran is very clear that it is in the hands of human beings. That is why we are given choice and intent. If everything Allah had kept in His own hands, what was the point of giving choice and intent, or the attributes of making choices to human beings? That is where our test lies. That is how we develop ourselves, that we carry out this distribution as the Quran has put forward. This ummah will generate the maximum means of sustenance, that is rizq. And we should also keep in mind and keep reminding ourselves that rizq includes not only that means of sustenance should be amply available and should be provided at the point at which those are required and adequately provided, and also these means of rizq should change according to the requirements of the time and even requirements of individuals. For example, children need different kind of sustenance than adults. Old people need different kind of sustenance. And after this will carry out its distribution in such a way that no human being will be left deprived. In the Quran, the foremost reason for Allah being deserving of hamd and appreciation is stated to be His being Rabbul Alameen. Furthermore, only that system can be deserving of hamd and appreciation in the world which takes this responsibility of Rububiyyat-e Alamini into its own hands and delivers in a balanced way. And this is another important point over here, into its own hands willingly and happily and joyfully. Because if Mu'mineen do not take it in their own hands, then this will go to Iblisi hands and the world will turn out to be what we see in today's world. This is the real foundation and the true purpose of the economic system of the Quran. People who volunteer to carry out these tasks on behalf of Allah will become Mu'mineen first and then develop their self and then understand the system of Deen. And this is part of our own self-development. Expanding Rehman and Raheem. In our previous presentation, we briefly looked at the divine attribute of Rabb. This helped us to understand the outline of the program of Rububiyyat of Allah in relation to mankind in the world. The Quranic guidance is made available to those human beings who, through their free volition, wish to choose the path presented by Allah in the Quran. In the next verse, the Quran has pointed to two important divine attributes which originate from the common root of Rahm. It is from this that the word Rahmat derives, meaning that donation which fulfills someone's apparent and hidden privation and which is given according to the requirement of the need. The word Raheem originates from this, the way in which the fetus receives nourishment within the uterus of the mother illustrates the meaning of Rahmat with clarity. The root of Rahmat, that is from where the derivative Rehman and Raheem are taken. This is the root over here. The womb of a female is called Rahm, in which a child is nurtured and is protected from external effects. The gift that completes Rahma, some shortcoming, and which is given according to need. A gift means that a thing is bestowed without any cost and without any return. Hence, Rahmat is that means of sustenance which is bestowed from Allah without any strings attached, nothing expected in return. Rahmat also means to cover something and to provide the means of protection. An important point over here is that under the system of Deen, if people are asked to work hard, because this is the way self develops, we are given this physical body to keep it occupied, to work, and it includes physical work as well as intellectual work. So it is not imposed externally on us. For example, if we go out in the morning to do some physical exercise, it is for our own good. We are not getting paid for doing that exercise. So this is the view people will have to take under the system of Deen, that is willingly contributing to the system for the good of everyone. Applications of this root word, the attributes of Raheem and Rehman are derivatives of Rahmat. All pleasantries of life are included in it. It includes the abundance in risk. So that means whatever risk is provided on the planet Earth, naturally, we have to make efforts to make it abundant, to multiply it. For example, by better agriculture practices. Rain which helps grow crops is a rahmat from Allah. And also this means that Quran in itself is a rahmat because has come down to us to develop ourselves. Children taking care of parents is counted as rahmat. Orphans taken care of by a system falls under this attribute. Rahmat has appeared as opposite to harm and evil. So we can imagine how little rahmat is in today's world. The revelation from Allah is also declared as being a rahmat, guidance for the development of the human self. Allah has made it compulsory on himself to bestow rahmat, and that is how mu'mineen will have to do, that they will make it compulsory on themselves to carry out the deeds of rahmat in the world. Hence, manifestation of this attribute is part of being a mu'min and muttaqi. Also used in mutual relationships. It has softness in it and is used opposite to hardness. Let us go to next slide. Schematic, Rizq, Rahmat leading to Raheem and Rehman. Rizq made available for all mankind for all times on this planet Earth. It's a beautiful picture. Rahmat in place. Attribute of Raheem manifests through human hands. Attributes of Rehman when required, for example, risk management. Attribute of Rehman when required, for example, through research and development. Needs of human body plus needs of human self, guidance of the Quran. Allah's deen emerges and establishes, which is fear and huzn disappear, connection established with the deen of the hereafter. So this schematic tells us that how do we proceed forward. And it is through education and training and self-development that we come to terms with our own self-development. Next slide is schematic on signs of Rahmat. These are different crowds, and world is like a crowd. All human beings are residing in different parts of the planet Earth. And out of these, some individuals who think and reflect refuse to be part of the crowd or grow out of the crowd. They are dissatisfied with the state of affairs but don't know what to do. And if we remember in our previous life, our previous phase of our self-development, we also came to the Quran looking for guidance. Some of them come to the Quran and through their intense focus and inner drive, find answers to their questions. They delve into it, read it, and analyze it. Come across the explanations in the books by Allama Parvez. And then they progress in knowledge, acquire Iman, and strengthen it with salih deeds. And this is something very important at a very fundamental level. We have to understand and pass it on to others as well, that accepting Iman is a paradigm shift in our outlook. And then doing solid deeds willingly with a view to develop ourselves, not mechanically, but with full focus that we want system of deen, not personal salvation like it is assumed under the domain of religion. It has nothing to do with being individual. It is the way Allah has laid down the procedure that all those who become mu'mineen, they have to create an inner desire to come together after acquiring Iman and doing some salih deeds. Strongly desire the system of deen. And this is important as well. We have gone through it again and again that what is strongly desiring for the system of deen, which means that we totally reject the man-made system. We have to be absolutely having no iota of doubt that I don't want this man-made system because it is chaotic. It creates problems for fellow human beings, and we have to be totally dissatisfied with it, despite being the beneficiary of it, despite having all type of relationships within that. Mentally be very clear on that. وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. Reject the man-made systems and are moved by the plight of humanity at large. This is where they experience the rahmat of Allah. So getting guidance is part of this Raheem and Rehman attributes of Allah. some more aspects of Rahmat. Leniences in Shariat are Rahmat. And Quran has put a lot of light on this. In fact, the word of religion is full of all kinds of rituals and various practices which are not required under the system of Deen. We have seen that self-development process which is put down by the Quran is fairly straightforward. The law of respite is also a rahmat. The acceptance of tawbah is rahmat. And law of respite means that between what we do and its effects, there is a time of respite. There is a gap. So we don't get results immediately. For example, if we have done wrong to someone, we will not get results immediately, but down the line at some point, if we have done that wrong, and according to the system in which we live, it is possible that we'll get some kind of retribution. Similarly, tawbah means that if we have made a mistake, we should go back to the point where we have made a mistake and take the right direction then. And that is why Quran says that good deeds replace the effects of bad deeds. Jannat is rahmat, and Jannat of the Quran is earned through our own efforts, and it is based on iman and salih deeds. Righteous progeny, and this is another very important point, that if parents are on this path, their children are bound to see their example, and parents become models for them. And if parents are continuously telling them as well that this is the right path, then we will see that it will have positive effects on them. Means of power and defense are rahmat, and that is related to the system of deen. Regaining lost greatness is rahmat. So if we are thinking of getting the same glamour and greatness and of a welfare state as it was in the initial era of Islam, then this is the way to go. Supplications for rahmat are noted in the Quran. Rahmat of Allah is ever closer to Muhsineen. And Muhsineens are those who add beauty and balance to the world, beauty and balance to their own families, to the society around them, and also to the world wherever they are. And that is the aim of the system of deen. These were some points which I have noted, because as we will go through rest of the Quran, we will see that how this Raheem and Rehman, two attributes of Allah, are applicable at various stages of our learning. Some pictures of interest, two different words, same planet. Child within the mother gets nourished under the direct domain of Allah. Once born, it falls under the direct domain of man-made systems. Over here, the Sampur shade over here, and we can see that the children, as they are born today, as long as they are within the mom themselves, they are okay depending on the economic condition of that mom. But once they come out, this is what happens to them. In most of the world, this is what is happening if they are not being bombed. Even not being bombed, we can understand what kind of a poverty these children are experiencing in various parts of the world. And we should keep in mind that they are children just like children of anyone else. Mothers remain under the domain of systems created by men. Values define their nature and form. And this is another picture. I've taken some worse kind of pictures, but I thought this is the way we should motivate ourselves, that it will keep happening until the system of deen starts taking shape somewhere in the world. And this is another picture. Human beings are capable of creating systems based on relative values. And we can see that this is one picture of some nursery, which is beautifully organized. And if human beings under the man-made system can create something like that, why can't they create it for this child sitting on the ground over here and begging? And this is another picture where all emphasis is on creating and training these, educating and training these children for the capitalist system. And this is an antenatal program. It is quite good actually, and this can be used as some kind of a forerunner for the system of deen. But obviously in the system of deen, self-development will form part of it. Analyzing further in finer detail. From the reproductive cells of man and woman, fertilization takes place and the embryo becomes established within the uterus. In this coming together within the embryo, the realizable potentials of a live human child are concealed. The way in which the means of nourishment are provided there to make these potentials manifest astounds people of intellect and vision. Everything is received there without any recompense and return. And this is the beauty of it, that we should keep in mind that from two initial selves, we have been created. And all that, those potentials, for example, which we are displaying on this platform, were in those two selves. So Allah, who created all that, how can He leave man alone and not provide him or her guidance? And why should He let them die and disappear? So the Quran is putting forward a great program for these human beings who come to the Quran and then meet those requirements and create a new self within them. This is received in a completely different way from the manner after the child is born. This is one example of the displays of Allah's Rehmat. Next is, why have two words, Rehman and Raheem? This is another very interesting part. We have gone through it previously as well, but we will slightly expand it a bit more today. Been used for the manifestation and expression of this attribute of Allah, that is of Rahmat. Even though the root of both is the same, in English translations of the Quran, the words beneficent and merciful appear for these, and which don't make any sense. That is why people, when they say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Raheem, and under English translation they say beneficent and merciful, they just move forward. It does not bring any iota of thought within their mind what it means, whereas this is pointing to the great program of self-development by Allah for human beings in the world. The Arabic language is a very scientific language. Every word in it has a root which contains a fundamental meaning like the seed of a tree. After this, in this language, there are different forms or weightages according to which various words keep on arising from this very root. At least through these presentations, we are getting some glimpse of the vastness of the Arabic language. Evolution follows the laws of Allah. Every form or weightage has a specific characteristic. This is about the Arabic language. As a result of this, even though the words which arise in various forms have the same fundamental meaning, their characteristics keep on becoming different. The word Rahimun is based on the weight of Fa'ilun, whose characteristic is that the expression of this attribute is that it is continuous, gradual, and persistent. And the weight of Rahmanun is on Falaun, whose meaning is that the expression of this attribute is with intensity and all of a sudden. This difference between these two meanings demands profound reflection and reasoning. And we can figure out in their voice as well, Fa'ilun, which is gradual, persistent, and continuous. And Falaun is raising the voice and the pitch. So that means these two point to different aspects of human nourishment and development. Researchers from the discipline of physical sciences have reached this conclusion that development in the things of the universe is occurring through an evolutionary process, i.e., with gradual nourishment, these keep progressing forward from their point of origin until they reach their destination of completion. These evolutionary stages are traversed link by link on a continuous basis. There is no gap in these links. But sometimes it also happens that a thing jumps across various links in a single leap and adopts a new form. Next slide is Ar-Rehman is related to emergent evolution. This is known as emergent evolution in their terminology. These scientists are unable to explain anything about how this occurs. So that means there is a progressive evolution which takes place link by link on a gradual, slowly, continuous basis. And then suddenly there is a step change in this progressive evolution. For example, this is what happened in the case of man. In the chain of cause and effect, sometimes those exceptions appear which only the hand of nature can bring into existence. And this is a quote from Viscount Samuel. From the above explanations, this fact becomes evident that the usual form of the means of nourishment, that is Rahmat, which the things of the universe obtain for their development, is that it keeps becoming available continuously and stage by stage. For this, the Quran has termed Allah as being Ar-Rehim. But when its appearance is in the form of emergent evolution, then he is called this Ar-Rehman. So that means during the phase of progressive evolution, the attribute of Allah, Ar-Rahim, will be applicable. And that is how we should understand it. And that means that if we understand that, then we have to apply it within the human world as well for our projects and for our own progress. But when there is a case of emergent evolution, then Allah's attribute of Ar-Rahman will be applicable. In relation to human creation, the manifestation of both these attributes are noted in one verse in Surah Al-Mu'minun. The beginning of the creation of man took place from inert matter. Then conception occurred in the mother's uterus, and the fetus began to develop. First, it adopted the form of a leech-like clot. Then it became like a piece of flesh. Then a skeleton of bones emerged in it. Then a layer of flesh was wrapped over these bones. Up until this point, the technique of reproduction and development is the same for the embryos of human being and other animals, and comes into shape via a gradual process. So we can see that how this physical process is taking place, which will be under the attribute of Ar-Rahim. Solving the hard problem of consciousness. And this is a huge challenge in the world of philosophy and also psychology, that how did man get consciousness? And what is the source of this consciousness within our mind or within our brain? This takes place according to Allah's attribute of Rahim. After this, such a fundamental difference occurs between a human being and an animal, which is not the physical outcome of the former links of evolution. There a sudden change emerges. About this, the Quran has stated, "Then we created out of it another creature. Summa anshanahu khalqan akhara." It's good to read these verses 23:14 and the verses before and after. And these point to the both aspects of Ar-Rahim and Ar-Rahman as models for our understanding. Then Allah made it into a new kind of creation. This is the consequence of emergent evolution. According to this new creation, man becomes endowed with his self, whose fundamental characteristic is choice and intent, and through the development of which it becomes enabled to traverse further evolutionary stages. For this emergent evolution, the word Ar-Rahman has appeared. In fact, after this, Summa anshanahu khalqan akhara, Quran says, Tabarakallahu ahsanal khaliqeen, that Allah is the best of the creator. That means this human being who has been created over here can also create. And human beings can create on this planet from the things which have already been provided by Allah. Becoming Khalik, becoming creator, is part of us. So we are meant to create in the world in terms of the physical conveniences, applications, as well as the value systems. The development of the human self takes place through obedience of those values and instructions which are given via wahi from Allah. So the Quran is dealing with that part, Tabarakallah, and we know that wherever these words Ba and Ra, they come together, it has that element of establishment, nourishment, growth, development, and of course the strength as well. And in the case of human self, all these things are over there, and that is why Quran has called human beings as part of doing creation on this planet Earth. So we got tremendous potentials, and once the system of Deen is established, then those who are present at that time will see that this world will become a totally different, transformed world. The development of the human self takes place through obedience of those values and instructions which are given via wahi from Allah. When Allah stated about himself that your Rabb has inscribed for himself Rahmat, Allah has declared it as a duty upon himself to bestow the means of sustenance, that is Rahmat, and then Mu'mineen will take over this responsibility and carry out all the distribution under this divine attribute of Rahmat, and will display this Rahmat for the benefit of everyone on this planet. Next slide is divine attributes help to identify and explore our latent potentials. This also means that in this Rahmat, other than the means of nourishment for the physical life of man, the development of his self was also included. Here another aspect appears before us, which is a specific manifestation of his attribute of Rahmaniyat. About man, it is stated in the Quran, taught man that which he knew not. And this is a beautiful verse, that how much potential for knowledge is kept within us. In other words, Allah placed the ability to gain knowledge within man. Animals live their life according to their instinct. They do not have any need to gain knowledge from outside. So that means if human beings or the system does not let human beings learn and gain knowledge, both the man-made knowledge as well as the knowledge of Wahi, these systems are keeping these human beings at an animalistic level. And imagine how serious crime it is for these people to be keeping fellow human beings at a lower level. And we can appreciate that how much we have gained by coming to the Quran. And we have seen that how our intellect is multiplying with every presentation and discussion we share over here. Therefore, they are not even bestowed with this ability. This ability is specifically for human beings. Man acquires this knowledge through different ways and means, i.e. observations, experiments, study, education and teaching, lectures and discussions. And from here we can also understand that how serious this whole business of our life is. And it should be taken very seriously, and passing of time should be taken into account all the time, that we are not wasting any time unnecessarily. Knowledge is gained gradually via these methods, and whichever individual wishes to, he can achieve it. In other words, we can say that in this aspect, Allah's attribute of Rahimiyat is functioning. So gaining knowledge, even about the man-made knowledge, man-made systems, is part of becoming Rahim. It is part of that, because unless we gain knowledge about the human system, we will not know where we are and where we are heading for. Because if we know our present position, then in the light of the Quran, we can decide that where we are going to reach, let's say in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 5,000 years. Now, next slide is Wahi provides additional choice for development of the self. But there is another form of knowledge as well, which cannot be obtained in any way whatsoever through the methods mentioned above, nor is there any role played in it of man's own effort or deed and skill. And this is a great rahmat from Allah, that He has shortened our journey on finding out the reality of our own existence by giving us whole of the Quran, not over 23 years. Whole of the Quran is with us, and we are living in an era where we can understand it in a fairly shorter period of time. And Allama Parvez, who was also a human being of Allah, who made such an effort, what is the power of his intellect which he utilized for this purpose, and as a result made our journey shorter in every respect. This used to be conferred from Allah directly onto his chosen righteous individuals. According to his program of Mashiach, Allah selects whoever He wishes specifically for His Rahmat. This reality, that in the acquisition of Wahi there was no role of man's own skill and effort, is clear from the fact that the righteous being who was being selected and designated for this had no knowledge or inkling before receiving Wahi of this matter, that he was going to be bestowed with this knowledge. And imagine that once all those companions of the messenger, and of course the messenger himself, once they went through the Quran, to what highest level of understanding about human beings and about the creation in the planet they had reached. From this it is evident that in the bestowing of Wahi, Allah's attribute of Rahmaniyat would manifest itself. This is why it is stated regarding this, Ar-Rehmanu Allama al-Quran. Ar-Rehman, it is He who has taught the Quran. And there is another very important subtle point over here, which we should keep in mind. And if we haven't come to this conclusion previously, we may have shared this aspect previously as well, that when Quran says Ar-Rehman, it is telling us that if you want quick results like emergent evolution, then you come to the Quran. If you want a quick change on the time scale of human beings, that is finite time scale on this planet Earth, then come to the Quran, and everything you will find in it of all aspects, Allama al-Quran, which will take you right in your finite time onto the system of deen, and you will get the power in the land. And there are examples given in the Quran. In fact, all messengers had acquired power at some point in time during their lifetime. And the glaring example of one messenger acquiring that power was Messenger Yusuf. Knowledge of the Quran is bestowed by Rahman, and it is on this very basis that the Quran is declared as being Rahmat. It is noted in Surah Bani Israel that we send down in the Quran that which is a healing and a rahmat for mu'mineen. Ar-Rehman, Allama al-Quran, we should keep in mind that, for example, the initial era of Islam got established, the system got established in 23 years when Quran was being revealed gradually and slowly, and as they were making effort to understand it and then establish it gradually on their own pace. So in today's world, since we can come to the whole of the Quran in a fairly shorter period of time, so whole thing is placed within our reach. And if we are, if we are somehow restricted in this, it is because of our own desire, because of our own wish, our own need, which is going to slow us down. Otherwise, if we create that desire and need within us, and its intensity, which is pointed out in the Quran, then whole thing is placed within our reach. When we desire quick results in the world, to conclude these divine two attributes, we need to also keep in mind that when the Quran is understood and followed as directed within the context of the system of deen, then it has the potential to move events at an accelerated pace, both within the self's development and in the outer world. And we may have noticed even in our case that we have progressed through this period of education and training for our own self-development. And now we have covered a number of salient points, and we will see that our understanding will significantly increase even with less effort, because we are already now aware of the salient permanent values. We are now going through some of the divine attributes, and we have gone through salient points of the system of deen from the Quran in various verses. And as a result, we'll be able to cross-reference with those, and our subsequent path will be far shorter than our initial path of life, our path of educating and training ourselves. When human beings become fully convinced of the efficacy of any ideology, be it evil or good, they pursue it with their full ability and devotion. And we see that, for example, in the man-made system, people make a lot of effort to do wrong. And this is going on right in front of our own eyes. And if not with a higher intensity, at least our intensity, our efforts as students of the Quran should also be the same. We should desire it and create motivation within us that we are going to go through this education and training as quickly and as efficiently as possible. If this ideology becomes one of a system, for example, the power structure under a man-made world, then those who are in power never gave up. The Quran declares this to be batil. And we have seen it that people, once they are established in the power and they start getting benefits of that power, they are not easily willing to give it up, and they will resist it right to the end of the world. The attribute of Rahman provides the basis for the system of Haqq and instructs us that even if batil is everywhere, if we start to act on this collectively, that is sum total of individuals. The numbers are not important. The important is that all of us who are on this platform are benefiting from it. Each one of us should make an effort to become extremely important in the book of Allah, or should I say in the eyes of Allah, as his companion. And it is now placed within our reach because we have made significant progress on this path of understanding important aspects of the value system of the Quran. Then its emergent time scale will lead to success within a short period of time. What we need is to convince ourselves regarding this and then to begin to work together towards this aim with the firm conviction that the laws of Allah are immutable and that they support human efforts striving towards the establishment of al-haq. We can see that the physical laws of Allah are supporting even the wrong systems. If they have acquired power through science and technology, and they have benefited in terms of their life as far as this life is concerned. So the same laws are applicable to Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen as well. But over and above that, there is the benefit of the Quran. And Ar-Rehman is pointing to that aspect that the knowledge of the Quran, Allama al-Quran, is there to help all those who are on this path and wish to get the results within their own lifetime. The attribute of Raheem is, in any case, functioning all the time in the human world on a non-deen pattern. Its aspect relating to deen will only come into play when the attribute of Rahman has managed to do its task, i.e. in relation to establishing the system of deen. Because through trial and error, human beings, through their suffering, will come to the Quran at some point when there will be another Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen, let's say in 100 years, 200 years, or 1,000 years. Then they will also have to go through the same process of education and training as we are doing on this platform. So we should, rather than leaving it to them, give it a try during our own finite lifetime. Thanks for your time and for sharing this today. Please feel free to share it with your contacts. You may like to subscribe for future talks related to the Quranic system of Deen. Thank you.